In the previous segment, we covered the process of frequency separation, and I took you guys through the steps that you do from the point that you have just one single background image to a point that you have a color layer with its backup layer and a texture layer with its backup layers and a group for your FS. And now, in the course of us doing that process of separation, I was really keen to mention that the point at which we introduce a Gaussian blur to our color layer is the point at which frequency separation occurs, because that is where we are separating our high frequency, which is the texture, from our low frequency, which is the color, by introducing a blur to our image. Okay, because like when you're taking a photo and the photo is very sharp and in focus, if you introduce a blur and defocus the photo and have it out of focus, you are going to lose the texture. So we are achieving the same outcome, but using the software. So if the point at which we input the radius is the point at which separation occurs, the radius that we use is really important. So I always say that the radius cannot be just a random number. You cannot just say I normally use 8 because I love it. I normally use 12. I normally use 15 because the guiding principle is, like I said in the previous video, you drag your radius up until the point where the sharp details of take the one that I have here, and you take a full body photo. Let me just try and load two of them. You're going to notice you're going to see a different amount of texture if you look at the images, even if they are the same person. So let me open this with photos. Where are you? Bring it here. So on this side, I have a closer photo, and let me open another full body photo just to bring this point home. And now let me bring this to the other side. And now if you look at these two photos, on the photo on the right, we can see a lot of texture and you can see the color of the model. Then to the photo on the left, we can see the color of the model, but very minimal texture. And that even applies in real life. If I'm 50 meters from you, you can only tell my skin tone. He's chocolate, he's dark, he's light, and etc. But when I get closer, you can now see that his skin is smooth, or it's rough, or it's textured, and etc. So that means that when our framing changes from the full body photo and we go to the tight beauty shot or headshot, the amount of detail that we see changes. And so when the amount of detail that we have in the photo changes, the radius that is going to separate that photo right is going to change. So that begs the question, if we use a radius of 12 to separate the close-up photo, when you go to separating the full body photo, are we going to use a bigger radius or a smaller radius? How does the radius change when you move from editing a close-up to a half body shot to a full body shot? How does it change? Does it become bigger or does it become smaller? The radius becomes smaller. So it's sort of an inverse relationship whereby the tighter the composition, the bigger the radius. The wider the composition, the smaller the radius. Why? Because when you compose wide, we do not see a lot of detail in the photo. And when you don't see a lot of detail in the photo, we do not have a lot of detail to take away in our frequency separation. That means that at the point of us inputting our radius, we are going to use a smaller radius for the full body photo as compared to the radius we are going to be using for a half body shot or for a close-up photo. Does it make sense? And just to bring that into context, let me open a few more images. Yes, let me open this image and let me open this image of mine. So these these are half body photo. Then I have a full body photo here. So I'm going to, of course, this one is already separated. I remember here we used a radius of 12 for the close-up for the beauty shot, for the close-up photo. So then I'm going to go to my photo over here, and using the same principle, I'm going to separate this particular photo. So I'm going to do it very fast, very fast. Same process. I'm going to go to blur and Gaussian blur. And so now when you get here, let me reposition the photo so that I can get to see my eyes. Using the previous radius of 12, you can see that the photo is a bit too soft or too out of focus. We have lost too much sharpness. So let me bring this back to 0, and let's start taking this up bit by bit like we did previously, and let's see where we lose just enough amount of sharpness. Okay, just enough amount of sharpness. That's a radius of 6, 6.8, 7.2, 7.4 looks good, 7.8. Yeah, I think that's good enough, and that's why normally I use a value of 8 for my half body shots, because now if you look at the photo as compared to when we had a value of 12, it is not too out of focus when we have a value of 8. So that's why you can see, courtesy of changing from us editing a close-up photo where I used a value of 12, we are now down to a value of 8 for a half body photo. And let's do the same to our full body photo. Control JJ and turn off the color, texture, pick the color, go to filter and blur and Gaussian blur, and let me reposition to where you can see the eyes. And now you can see for this kind of photo, a radius of 8 is too high. So I'm going to take this back to 0, 0.1, sorry. Then I'm going to drag it up just a bit until I lose all my sharp details. And where does this happen for this particular photo? Let me see. Yes, happens around 3.9, 3.8, 3.7. So I'm going to use a radius of 4 to separate this particular image. So that's a radius of 12, a radius of 8, a radius of 4, and all these separations are right. So that is the principle of the radius. As your composition and your framing changes, so does the radius that you use to separate your photos change, because as your composition is changing, the amount of available texture and sharpness that you have in the photo, especially on the skin, is going to go down. So the wider you go in composition, the less skin texture we see. The less skin texture we see, the smaller the radius we have, because we don't want to take away texture we do not have from our photo. Does it make sense? So that is the impact of the radius. So whenever you're doing your separation, always remember to pay regard to the radius and make sure that you're using the right radius for the right photo. So for my case, that's why even in the course that you have, even in the document, a version of it, I've said I always use a radius of 12 for close-up photos, a radius of 8 for half body shot, and a radius of 4 for full body shots. And let me just insist, these values might not work best for you, so you can just experiment using what I've taught you so far and see what radius values are going to be working best for you. But in a nutshell, that is the impact of the radius in frequency separation. And so the radius should never be a random number, because if you do not say I'm going to put 7 because 7 is my favorite number, no, your choice of radius has to be informed and very intentional. That is the end of this particular video. See you guys in the next one as we get ready for mixing by setting up the mixer brush.